1468 and 69. We've only got another 12 pages, 14 pages or so. We saw at the end of 1468, the messenger comes from Corinth. The messenger comes from Corinth and tells them Oedipus is dead. Okay? And on 1468, Oedipus comes out and he asks, who's that? She says, he's a messenger from Corinth. He says, your father is dead, Oedipus. He's dead, line 1046. What? And he asks, let me hear it straight from you. So he does. And then Oedipus says, Oedipus says, so, Jocasta, why look to the prophet's heart the fires of the future? Why scan the birds that scream above our heads? They winged me on. The birds, the prophecy, okay, winged me on to the murder of my father, did they? Because that's the prophecy he received when he went to the oracle at Delphi. That was my doom? Well, look. He's dead and buried, hidden under the earth, and here I am in Thebes. I never put hand to sword. In other words, I might still be the murderer of Laius. I mean, he's not absolving himself of that. But he is saying, at least I didn't kill my father and marry and sleep with my mother and stuff. Okay? He says, phew, I can wander at least aimlessly now, but I haven't killed my father. Okay? She says, told you. Didn't I tell you that from the start? Yeah, you did. Okay? So, Oedipus goes on. Yeah, but, my mother's bad. Surely I must fear. Fear? Now you have here about, what is this? 1069 to not even 1079. 69 to about 77 or so. So 7 or 8 lines that Sigmund Freud took and built an entire psychological complex out of that has screwed people over ever since he published his quote-unquote findings. What should a man fear? Jocasta says. It's all chance. Chance rules our lives. What is she saying? Okay. Remember the other day I put up on the board, I put fate, the gods, people down here. The gods can see fate. The gods tell that to us to kind of play with us, etc. The gods can't change fate. Fate doesn't do anything to the gods, but fate rules us. She is saying, no, it doesn't. What rules us? Pure chance. That's it. Nothing but chance. There can be no prophecy. Why? Because there can be no foretelling of the future. There is no future until it comes with every breath you take. Not a man on earth can see a day ahead, groping through the dark. Right or wrong? Right. She's right. We think we know what tomorrow will bring or what the next minute will bring. Why? On the basis of experience. What experience? What the last minute brought. What yesterday brought. We think the sun will come up tomorrow because it has for the last 4.4 billion years. Okay? That doesn't, however, negate the possibility of something horrendous happening. A so-called catastrophe. better to live at random best we can. She's kind of saying, better to live for today. There's a term that's going to come up later when we talk about poetry. Marker is going dead. Carpe diem. This does not show up on the exam, it'll show up later. Which means seize the day. Seize the day. Why? Because, God forbid, every one of us could be dead tomorrow. Some horrific event could happen to Murfreesboro. Peck Hall could suddenly, implode into a sinkhole. There is actually, if I remember correctly, a sinkhole that did start forming under Peck Hall many, many years ago. They tried to fill it up. I think that's true. Might be urban legend, but I'm pretty sure it's true. Okay? So, better to live at random, best we can. And as for this marriage with your mother stuff, don't worry about that. Why? Many a man before you, in his dreams, has shared his mother's bed. That's the line Freud builds the entire Oedipus complex on. That men secretly, subconsciously want to sleep with their mothers. And then he takes another play called Electra and comes up with the Electra complex, which is that every woman secretly, subconsciously wants to sleep with her father. Freud was pretty screwed up, okay? Take such things for shadows, nothing at all. Live, Oedipus, as if there's no tomorrow. Live for today. Brave words, and you'd persuade me if mother weren't alive. Whose mother? Who does he think his mother is? So is he ever going back to Corinth? Nope. Not while she's alive. But your father's death. So if your father's dead and you didn't kill him, what does that do for the rest of the prophecy? It negates it. Okay? He says, yeah, I know, but she's still alive, so not going there. And the messenger, wait. Sorry, I'm an old man. What'd you say? What makes you afraid? Merope, old man, the wife of Polybus. Well, what do you fear about her? Dreadful prophecy sent. Well, tell it to me. Unless it's forbidden. He goes, no, it's not forbidden. So Oedipus tells the prophecy again. Apollo told me once, it is my fate, I must make love with my own mother, shed my father's blood with my own hands. So for years, I've stayed away from Corinth. Well, you're afraid of that? Notice what the question implies. Silly prophecy. Well, yeah, I mean, my father. Oh, well, I can relieve you of that fear. What do you think I came for? So you'd come home. And I'd be better. Wait, what do you mean? I'm not coming home. Never, he says. I will never go near my parents. My boy, you don't know what you're doing. Remember how I kind of defined tragedy the other day? It's when a character has got to make a decision or perform an action when he doesn't or she doesn't have all the necessary information he or she needs to make that decision or perform that action. What do you mean? If you ran from them, always, of course. Well, you'd be covered with guilt from both your parents. That's right. That's why I ran away. Top of the next page. Don't you know? There's nothing really nothing. What do you mean? I am their son. If I'm their son, Merope, Polybus was nothing to you. At least not in blood. What are you saying? Polybus was not my father? What did the drunk say at the party? Polybus isn't your father. He assumed that meant somebody else shacked up with his mother. He was no more your father than I am. He and I are equals. What's he mean? In respect of being your father, Polybus and I are equals. He doesn't mean in the sense that I'm a king, like Polybus says. Wait, how can my father equal nothing? Because you're nothing to me. You're just a messenger. You're just a slave. Well, neither was he. No more your father than I am. Then why did he call me his son? You were a gift years ago. He took you from my hands. Okay, so that gives us a little idea of how old this messenger is. He's not a 20-year-old. He's old enough to be Oedipus's father. Wait, what do you mean? But he loved me deeply. True. Can adoptive parents not love adopted children deeply? As if they were their own biological children? Where'd you get me? Did you buy me? Was I a slave? Oh, I stumbled on you on the woody flanks of Mount Kithaeron. Where have we heard that name before? Chorus talked about it. Louder?
Where Jocasta threw the baby.
That's where Jocasta said 3 days after her son was born, they had him cast on the sides of that mountain. So close, that is. What's just outside Thebes? What were you doing there? Watching over my flocks. Oh, you were a herdsman. A vagabond scraping for... Notice how Oedipus tries to belittle him. Well, I was also your savior, little smart ass. So you better... If it weren't for me, you'd be dead. Which probably in about 10 minutes' time, Oedipus is thinking, you should have let me die, Why? Was I in pain when you picked me up? Your ankles. They tell the story. How does a person's ankles tell the story? Well, what does his name mean? Swollen foot or club foot. Okay? Why remind me of that old affliction? And the implication is Oedipus probably walks with a bit of a limp. He doesn't walk normally. Okay? Well, your ankles were pinned together. What does it mean, pinned? Doesn't mean shackled like handcuffs. He had a nail driven from one ankle through to the other when he was 3 days old. Why? To help speed along his death. Notice, why not just... I've had it from the cradle, and you got your name from that misfortune too. Dear God, who did it? Mother? Father? I don't know. You have to find the one who gave you to me. Well, who was that? Another shepherd. You know who? See, he said he worked for somebody. What was that guy's name? Larry? Leonard? Laius. That was it, Laius. And Jocasta turns. Why? That's her recognition. She knows at that point. Ooh. She looks at her son and thinks, ooh. The king of the land, yep, that was him. Is he still alive? That is the shepherd that gave messenger. I don't know. You have to ask these people here. Who are these people here? Jocasta and the chorus. So, anybody know that herdsman? The leader. I think he's the guy you sent for. Jocasta, you remember the man? Is that the one he means? Why ask? Old shepherd, talk, empty nonsense. Don't give it another thought. What? Give up now? With a clue like this? What is Oedipus known for? He's the riddle solver, right? This is a pretty good riddle. He's got to get to the bottom of it. She's like, this is a riddle you don't want to solve. Stop. In the name of God, if you love your own life, call off this search. My suffering is enough. Enough for what? If he calls off the search at this point, what is Yocasta suggesting will happen? He'll forget about it. What about her? No. Is she going to, as Hamlet suggests to his mother regarding Claudius's bed, is she going to give up his bed from there on? No. She's got to act like nothing has changed. So she will know every night she goes to bed with her son, this is my son. And yet she'll have to act like nothing's wrong. Courage. Even if my mother turns out to be a slave, and I a slave. You, Yocasta, you wouldn't seem common. In other words, I get it. You don't want to find out that I'm lowly born. She's like, that's not it, son. No, listen to me, I beg you, don't do this. He says, I must know it all. He must, according to Tiresias, do what? Bring everything that is dark into the light. She says, no, please, I want the best for you. Why? What mother doesn't want what's best for her son? Your best is more than I can bear. You are doomed. May you never fathom who you are. So, bring him here. Aye, man of agony, that is the only name I have for you. That no other ever, ever, ever. And she runs inside the palace doors. Leader, where's she gone, Oedipus? What do you think she's up to? Rushing off such wild grief. It's awful quiet in there. She ran off screaming, and it's like the moment the doors closed, silence. Something monstrous may come bursting forth. Let it burst. Well, what's the monstrous thing that's going to burst forth? The truth. Whatever will, whatever must. I must know my birth, no matter how common it may be. Must see my origins face to face. Well, he just did. So the chorus then gets a little speech, and we see the old shepherd enter, reluctant to approach the king. Okay? So, Oedipus turns to the leader. You recognize him? Yep, I know him. Yeah, he was one of Laius' men. He turns to the stranger, the messenger from Corinth. You recognize him? He goes, yep, that's him, all right. So, come here. Did you serve Laius? I did. And what kind of duties? Herding the flock. Where? Kithaeron. You ever seen this man before? Kind of like, what man? The one right in front of you. This one. Not so I could say. My memory's a little bad. It's kind of fuzzy. Okay? Messenger. What does the messenger say? Here, let me refresh your memory. I'm sure he recalls old times we had on the slopes of Mount Kithaeron. He and I grazing our flocks, he with 2, I with 1. Struck up together 3 whole seasons, 6 months at a stretch. He says, you remember now? Yeah, I guess. It was a long time ago. Come on. Remember the little boy you gave me? What? Why rake up that again? Rake like it's been dead and buried, and you want to dig up that old corpse. Okay? Oedipus, don't talk to him like that. What have I done wrong? You won't answer his question? He's talking nonsense. Why doesn't he want to speak the truth? What sometimes happens if you use the modern proverbial phrase, speak the truth to power. Power comes down on you like a hammer, and you don't speak anymore. He's talking nuts, so you won't talk. You won't willingly. Okay, then I'll torture you. The guard sees him, twists his arms back. Why? What more do you need to know? Did you give him the child? I wish I'd done. That's not the answer. He says, Where'd you get the child from? I'm not going to answer. I got it from someone. Who? Who? No more questions. Should Oedipus know at this point? Does Oedipus know at this point? He has to hear the exact words. Elias. Is that proof enough? Nope. Slave? Or born of his own blood? Come on, tell me. The one inside, your wife, she could tell it better. What, she gave it to you? Yes. What for? To kill it. Her own child? She was afraid. Frightening prophecies. What? They said he killed his parents. Well, who's the he? You. But why'd you give him to the old man? Okay, notice, he had a job to do. What was the job? It wasn't to kill the baby. It was to leave it on the mountain. I pitied the little baby, master. Hoped he'd take him off to his own country, far away. But he saved him for this fate. Why? Because you can't, to use a phrase I used the other day, you can't make an end run around fate. Fate is that which will be, period. There's nothing you can do to escape it. Right? Modern day psychology, for example, we don't talk about fate, we talk about determinism. Okay? There's a whole branch of philosophy that says everything is determined. And guess when that determinism began? Approximately 14.4 billion years ago, when the Big Bang went boom. And what the Big Bang did is it set everything in motion that is happening now. Even just now when somebody turned their page, that was determined 14.4 billion years ago. In other words, we think we have free will, free choice. No, we don't. Everything you do has already been written, so to speak, in stone. Well, if that's true, then what does that do to responsibility? If that's true, and let me just use a couple examples here, or one example. And Ray comes into class one day and she has a handgun and she kills Carlos. Is she responsible? No. Not if you accept that literally, because that was determined 14.4 billion years ago. So she could not be held responsible for that. All right? If you literally accept the idea of fate. Oedipus, oh God, all come true, all burst to light. O light, now let me look my last on you, I stand revealed at last. Cursed in my birth, yep, because that's what Apollo said. Cursed in marriage, doubly so. Cursed in the lives I cut down with these hands. What lives? Elias and his men. He rushes through the doors now. Okay? Remember, the palace is quiet. We haven't heard anything about Yocasta yet. Chorus. Oh, the generations of men, the dying generations, adding the total of all your lives, I find they come to nothing. Is there a man on earth who seizes more joy than just a dream, a vision? This is the chorus. The chorus is commenting on what's gone before and interpreting. What does the chorus say is the essence of human existence? Life's a bitch and then you die. That's it. That's kind of the mentality of the ancient Greeks. Because in their system, you've got the gods toying with you, just playing with you. Think, the things that change into robots. Transformers movie, where you have Megatron and there's that, little puny human down there and he goes. That's what we are to the gods. If you accept that cosmology. Okay? Notice, is there a man on earth who seizes more joy than just a dream, a vision? Joy, real bliss. Here, why just a dream, a vision? Because it doesn't last. In the vision, no sooner dawns than dies. You get just a little taste of that joy and it's dead. So, you are my great example. You who? Your life, your destiny, Oedipus, man of misery, I count no man blessed. Pretty bleak, right? Okay. So the chorus goes on, and the messenger, different messenger, comes out of the palace and says, men of Thebes, always the first in honor, what horrors you will hear, what you will see, what a heavy weight of sorrow you will shoulder. If you are true to your birth, if you still have some feeling for the royal house of Thebes. Their leader's like, really? What worse can happen? The queen is dead. How? By her own hand. But you're spared the worst. You never had to watch. I saw it all. In Greek drama, what was called spectacle, when somebody was killed, when somebody harmed themselves, killed him or herself, maimed him or herself, all that happened off the stage. That wasn't appropriate to be seen. Okay? And he tells us what happened. She ran in after her conversation with Oedipus, after realizing who Oedipus was and what she'd done with Oedipus. She takes off her belt, essentially, and hangs herself. And then Oedipus runs in, and he sees these pins on her gown, like brooches, and he pulls them off, and he sticks them in his eyes and gouges his eyes out. 1403. He rips off her brooches, the long gold pins, holding her robes, lifting them high, looking straight up into the points. He digs them down the sockets of his eyes, crying, you, that is his eyes, you'll see no more the pain I suffered, all the pain I caused. Too long you looked on the ones you never should have seen. Me, his children. He should never have seen his children, because he never should have brought those children into the world. Blind to the ones you long to see, to know. Blind from this hour on. Blind in the darkness, blind. Leader, oh, poor man, the misery. Well, does he have rest from his pain now? In other words, how are you doing, Oedipus? Are you dealing with your pain? Messenger, he's shouting. Okay? So, we see Oedipus come out, led by a boy. The chorus. Oh, the terror, the suffering for all the world to see, the worst terror that ever met my eyes. What madness swept over you, what God, what dark power leapt beyond all bounds, beyond belief to crush your wretched life. God forsaken, cursed by the gods. Okay? Oedipus. The agony, I am agony, where am I going? Where on earth? Where does all this agony hurl me? The term protagonist comes from proto-agonist. Protos means first, chief. Agonist, sufferer. See, the protagonist in a story isn't the person who has everything going best for him or her. It's the person who endures the most, suffers the most. Okay? So why doesn't he just kill himself like his wife did? Because in Greek drama, in Greek tragedy, the protagonist endures. The protagonist goes on. The protagonist is taken to be a model for all of us. That's why Aristotle came up with that idea of catharsis. We feel the pain and suffering, the pity, okay, for that individual, and it gets purged through seeing that individual suffering. And we kind of think to ourselves, there but for the grace of the gods, or God, go I. So, Oedipus goes on, he talks about darkness and blindness, etc. He hears the chorus, 1459. Dear friend, still here, standing by me, still with a care for me, the blind man, such compassion, loyal to the last. He says, I know you're here. Chorus, what have you done? What superhuman power drove you on? Apollo, friends, Apollo. Apollo drove me to this. He ordained my agonies. No, he didn't ordain them. He told them. Apollo didn't make them happen. What did? Fate. Okay. So, Oedipus says, 1475, what can I ever see? That is, from this point on, what can I ever see? What love, what call of the heart can touch my ears with joy? Nothing. Take me away from Thebes. Chorus, pitiful, you suffer so, you understand so much. And that's one of the ideas Sophocles wants us to understand. Understanding comes through suffering. That we have to accept that suffering in order to learn from it. Okay? I wish you'd never known. So, we have a phrase. Ignorance is bliss. Because what does ignorance mean? Not knowing. If somebody accused me of being ignorant in particle physics, I'd go, yep. Because whoosh. Ignorant in calculus, yep. Whoosh. Ignorant in recording industry technology, yep. That's not a slam. That's not a criticism. It's a true statement. Okay? Oedipus. Die, die. Whoever he was that day in the wilds who cut my ankles free of the ruthless pins, he pulled me clear of death. He saved my life for this. This kindness. Curse him. Kill him. It's the damn shepherd's fault. See, Oedipus hasn't fully come to understand. Because what's he doing there? He's blaming somebody else. If I died then, I'd never have dragged myself, my loved ones, through such hell. I'd never have come to this. My father's murderer. Never been branded mother's husband. Chorus. How can I say you've chosen for the best? Better to die than be alive and blind. Really? Tell that to Tiresias. He's alive and blind, but he's only blind one way. What I did was best. Don't lecture me. No more advice. What does he mean? I think what he means is, I did the best I could. What I did was best based on what I knew. I, with my eyes, how could I look my father in the eyes when I go down to death? See, this is why he probably doesn't commit suicide. Because he knows once he's dead, he's going to go where the dead are. And who's he going to see? Mom and Dad. Worse yet, the sight of my children, born as they were born. How could I look, see, but But if I stay alive, not seeing, I won't have to see my children. Okay? So he goes on, he talks about Kithron, he talks about his parents, he talks about his adopted parents, he talks about the triple roads and such and such. Okay? And he finishes saying, 1544, quickly, for the love of God, hide me somewhere, kill me, hurl me into the sea, where you can never look on me again. Notice, you have to do that, not me. The leader comes in with crayon. Notice. Oedipus is going to leave. Jocasta is dead. Who's going to rule Thebes? But Oedipus has adult sons. And between this play and Antigone, one of the adult sons takes the position of ruler, and another one of the adult sons attacks Thebes because he wants to be the ruler. And that sets up the action for the next play. So, Oedipus, what can I say to Crayon? Because what did I last say to Crayon? You conspired with Tiresias to kill Laius. Crayon, I haven't come to mock you, Oedipus, or to criticize your former failings. That is, I'm not coming to say, look, you've got what you had coming to. No. He turns to the guards and says, what are you guys doing? You shouldn't have let him out here. He should be inside. Wipe my tears away, Oedipus says. Do one more thing. What? Why so insistent? In other words, Oedipus, you're done calling the shots. You're done giving orders. Drive me out of the land. Why? That's what the oracle at the beginning of the play said needed to be done. For what? For the purification of Thebes. So that the plague will leave Thebes. He's saying, let all those curses I uttered fall on me. Drive me out, and Thebes will survive. Okay? Crayon, I'd have done that already. But first I wanted to hear from the god. What exactly are my duties? His command was clear. He said, yeah, but better to double check. You'd ask the oracle about a man? Yeah. Crayon is showing what here? Wisdom, prudence. Two things that Oedipus has kind of been a little bit lacking in. He's not acting rashly. Something Oedipus has shown throughout the play. Okay? And Crayon says, and this time I assume even you will obey the god's decree. He goes, I will, I'm sorry. Bury Jocasta. He says, my children, don't worry about the boys. They're men. They'll take care of themselves. But my daughters, take care of them. And Antigone and Ismene, his two small daughters, come out. And Crayon says, it's my doing. Why? Because you need to say goodbye to them. Bless you, Crayon. 16:19. May God watch over you for this kindness. Better than he ever guarded me. He calls for his daughters. Notice, he feels their faces since he can't now see them. And he turns to Crayon after he talks to them and says, Crayon, you're the only father they have now. We who brought them into the world are gone, both gone to a stroke. Don't let them go begging, abandoned. That is, don't let them become poor beggars or slaves. Raise them up in the royal household, your own flesh and blood. Never bring them down to the level of my pains. It's a little bit of foreshadowing. Even though Antigone was produced before, chronologically it occurs after this play. Okay? So, Crayon, that's enough. Into the palace. He says, I will, but I find it hard. Time's the great healer. What does it mean? He's indicating something here about Oedipus's life. You got a lot of years ahead of you, buddy. Okay? I'm going. You know the conditions? Drive me out of Thebes. I will. Or the gods will. Okay? Oedipus, no, don't take them away. Still the king, still the master of all things, no more. Here your power ends. So, what does Oedipus lose by the end of the play? Start from the beginning. What does he lose first? She runs inside. His wife / mother, because she kills herself. What else does he lose? His eyes, his sight. Okay. What else does he lose? His kids. What else does he lose? What is he when the play opens? He's no longer king. So he loses his throne, he loses his power. What else does he lose? He loses his home. He goes into exile. He loses everything. Okay? Does he gain anything? Sure. The truth? What else? Helps Thebes out. Don't know that that necessarily gains him anything. What did Tiresias say he will gain by losing something? He will gain sight by losing sight. He loses his physical sight and he gains what? Insight. He now, we use the phrase, oh, I see, to mean what? I understand. I get it. It has nothing to do with these. It has everything to do with either in here or in here. I perceive it. Okay? He perceives an awful lot now. So we get the last bit of the play. The chorus comes out. The chorus gets the last word. It gets the last interpretation. People of Thebes, my countrymen, look on Oedipus. Why? It's not only because he solved the famous riddle with his brilliance, he rose to power, a man beyond all power. That is, now he's beyond all power. He has nothing. Who could behold his greatness without envy? Look at Oedipus. Who wouldn't, at the beginning of the play, want to be like Oedipus? Look at Jeff Bezos. Look at Bill Gates. Look at Warren Buffett. Look at whoever you quote unquote idolize, Look at, some famous actor. Look at some famous politician who seems to have everything going for him or her. That's what the playwright is saying. Look at that person when they're at the top of their game. Because what is going to happen? Almost inevitably, whoosh, they will have a reversal of fortune. Okay? Who could behold his greatness without envy? Now, what a black sea of terror has overwhelmed him. So what might Sophocles be saying about envy? Maybe you shouldn't want to be like that great guy over there, because maybe it's just better to be kind of piddling around in the middle in our own little basic sorry lives. Because with this comes an even greater fall. Now, as we keep our watch, notice sight, and wait the final day. What's the final day? Death. Count no man happy till he dies. Period? No. Because what happens when you die? Free of pain at last. real encouraging, life-affirming idea, right? No. No. And we're going to see a poem later in the semester that's going to hearken back to this. It's going to talk about this attitude of life is pain, Highness, and then you die. Okay, we'll stop there. Exam on Monday, as I've said. It's going to look, as I've said, kind of like the quizzes, but with some multiple choice. Will not include Antigone since we did not read Antigone, but everything we've done from the beginning of the semester till now. Right? If you have your quizzes, I would review those because some of the questions will come straight from the quizzes. If you don't have them, I would get with somebody who does.